spend some time tonight talking about kind of some of the nuts and bolts associated with the search process, just some different pieces of that to really keep in mind as you're thinking about crafting a gap year experience. Annabelle, as I had shared with everyone else, I facilitated a workshop last week that talked more specifically about broad stroke options for things to think about for gap year experience. So if you're interested in receiving the PowerPoint slides, I'd be glad to.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the publicity for it, but I just wasn't able to make it. I thought this would be the same, but
sure.
Yeah,
it's slightly different. So we're going to talk about that this evening. Annabelle, where are you in your career? Sophomore. Yeah, excellent. Pre-health track? Mm-hmm. Very good. What do you see kind of in the future for yourself?
So I'm interested in I'm majoring in public policy, so I'm thinking of if I did a gap year doing health policy or something, or maybe even just something totally public policy related. So, but I don't really know.
And beyond the gap year?
And then med school.
Med school.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All righty. Well, we will launch into things this evening. As I said, this is going to be more of a nuts and bolts conversation about things associated with the actual process of lining things up for gap year. And please feel free to ask questions or make comments, ask things that are specific to your situation, because this is kind of broad strokes. I know with your specific interest, Adam, there may or may not be things that specifically apply to you, but in the nature of transferable information, you can use some of these techniques as you're thinking about different options for yourself. So we'll talk broad strokes about search strategies, networking strategies, various kinds of documents that might be associated with the application process. Talking about references and recommendations. Many times recommendations are something that might be requested of you if you're applying to a particular program, like if you were applying to a working fellowship, or if you were in pursuit of a Fulbright grant, you'd be looking for letters of recommendations. We'll talk a bit about that process. We'll touch briefly on some interview strategies, depending on the type of opportunity that you might be pursuing. There might be different types of interview, different types of interviews that you might encounter. And then I took the liberty of just taking 4 different types of, again, broad categories of experiences that people might explore for gap years. Kind of talk specifically through some of the things that are associated with that. I've also got some links that will take us to a couple of websites to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And then spend just a couple of minutes talking about specifically how the Career Center can help you as you're discerning the types of things that you might want to consider for gap year experiences. So obviously before you launch into applying for specific things, you're going to have taken some time to really consider what are going to be options for you that are going to be meaningful and fulfilling on your journey to professional school or the next step. Adam, you were talking about combining your interests in both hands-on clinical connections with patients and your interest in Spanish. So having an opportunity to take some time and reflect on things that are going to be important to you. There might be particular requirements that you're needing to take care of. That handout that I had up at the top, 9 domains to determine your gap year experience, that was something that we went through the other evening, just to think about major areas of issues that you might want to consider as you're determining sort of all the sea of options that are available, where you might begin to hone in on some things that are going to be right for you and for your needs. So reflection is ultimately the first step in the process. So talking about search strategies, depending on the type of opportunity that you're looking for, whether it's a job, an academic opportunity, scholarship or fellowship, perhaps a working fellowship or research, that's going to require slightly different search tactics. Obviously, if you're looking for a job, places like e-recruiting that you can access within the Career Center. Does everyone have their e-recruiting account activated? Have you had opportunity to search for internships or things that might look appealing? Yeah, that would be one place to start, depending on what you were interested in. Just as a side note, after you graduate, you have an opportunity to get career services for up to 4 years out after you graduate, and you no longer have access to an e-recruiting account, but you can get the mothership, so to say, of e-recruiting, which is experience.com, and you can also sign up for that through the Career Center website. LinkedIn can be another source of identifying jobs or possibly research opportunities. Job boards, different disciplines have different aggregators for identifying different positions. You may be interested in looking for clinical research assistant positions. Those sometimes show up on sites like simplyhired.com or indeed.com. The USIF Scholarship and Fellowship Database, USIF stands for Office of Undergraduate Scholars and Fellows here at Duke. That's going to be one of the websites that we'll actually go to later on during my presentation, just to take a look at that. There's a database. USIF has been accumulating over the years a wide variety of working fellowships and academic scholarships and fellowships in a database that allows you to search based on, broad categories or tags that you might be interested in. That's something that, as the Career Center individual who is responsible for fellowship initiative, that's a project that I really look forward to updating with a lot of other fellowships that I've been accumulating over the years. So that's definitely a place to put on your list of places to identify. Different organizations offer 1 or 2 year working fellowships, paid opportunities. That's definitely an option. Finding out about opportunities through networking. I'm sure that you have heard of the value of networking, and that is also true in gap year experiences. That could be something that could be very helpful if you were interested in working with a particular nonprofit, for example, trying to identify individuals through LinkedIn or Duke Connect that you might be able to network to find out about opportunities. Idealist.org is another website that has a lot of nonprofit-based type opportunities. So that could potentially be something that you might want to check out, Adam, for opportunities associated with dental work in the nonprofit arena. And then the Career Center website. If you go to the Career Center website, we have a whole host of what we call career option guides. And within each of those, there are numerous links that may provide opportunities that aren't listed someplace else. So just a listing of a wide variety of resources here. Networking strategies. Who might be part of your networking web, so to say? One of the most important groups of individuals would be what we call your board of advisors. Who are those individuals that know you in different facets of your career here at Duke, or perhaps back in your hometown, your high school? It might be a professor, it might be an individual that served as your supervisor when you were on Duke Engage, it might be a high school teacher. Those people that you go to for advice, they can be excellent sources of networking opportunities, particularly professors and other staff and faculty here at Duke. Rich resource for talking with about various ideas. Faculty, upperclassmen. All of you are still in the position where you know someone who is older than you. So talking with other individuals about opportunities that they may have heard someone talk about. Just talking with people that you know. Duke alums. You might meet Duke alums through the context of service organizations that you belong to, or you belong to sorority and fraternity. Alumni are incredible opportunities for networking, as well as former supervisors. I mentioned that earlier. But keep in mind that, you know, people for whom you have worked in the past, maybe you've had a part-time job here on campus, and you had a particularly strong relationship with them, or could be a supervisor that you had in an internship. Those can be very valuable resources for, you know, connections as you're reaching out and developing a network for identifying gap year resources. Yes, so additional resources would be Do Connect. How many people have accessed alum through Do Connect? Is that a resource that you're familiar with? Okay, I should have added that link. Do Connect is a database of over 6,000 Duke alums who have opted into that database to be willing to have networking conversations with individuals. So you might be interested in, there was someone at last week's workshop who was really interested in exploring the possibility of healthcare consulting for a gap year experience. That individual could go to Do Connect and search on healthcare consulting, and a list of alumni would come up who have healthcare consulting in their profile, either past or present. You're able to send an email directly to the alum from Do Connect. So, you know, reaching out in an informational interview capacity to develop a connection, getting advice. Do Connect is a fabulous resource. LinkedIn is another opportunity for connecting with individuals, both from an industry or organization standpoint, or you can also identify Duke alums who are affiliated with various organizations. How many of us have LinkedIn profiles? Okay. That's another piece of your career development portfolio that I'd really encourage you to develop to its fullest potential, because that can be very valuable for reaching out to individuals. Not only finding out about gap year experiences, but also, you know, about professional school experiences. I mentioned the informational interview. That can be a wonderful source of information about, you know, the experience of that particular individual and getting to the position that they are now. You can find out a lot about somebody's company. You can, you know, find out how your particular interests might fit within the type of work that individual is doing. You might simply ask for advice based on their experience. You know, what would be some organizations that you might recommend I talk to? I frequently tell individuals when we're talking about networking conversations, one of the best questions to ask towards the end of the conversation is, who else would you recommend that I talk to? Because that can automatically expand your networking options beyond, you know, what you're immediately aware of. So that can be a good resource. Networking opportunities can take place in lots of different arenas. Conceivably, on campus, you can have all kinds of opportunities for networking. Career fairs, if you choose to go to information sessions, you know, again, if you're interested in a company or a nonprofit, that organization might be coming to campus to hold an information session, reaching out to individuals associated with that. You know, departments might be having fairs where they invite a variety of professional schools, reaching out to individuals associated with schools, keeping in touch with individuals on a departmental basis. That can be a great networking opportunity. And if you have an opportunity to go to professional meetings, that can be a great place for making networking contacts. So, you know, all of these resources can be things that you can tap into, you know, as you're beginning the process of solidifying direction for gap year experience. It's important to think about these networking conversations as resources for the long term. I encourage folks to keep in touch with people that they've reached out to. If you meet somebody at a career fair, or if you talk with someone that you connected with through Do Connect, keep track of that individual and, you know, set up a system where you can keep track of these contacts, what the content of your conversation might be, and try to plan for yourself a periodic, just touching base with individuals. As I've been talking with students about this, I'm finding I'm guilty of that myself. I have several professors over at North Carolina State that I really intended to keep close touch with, and it's been over a year since I've reached out to touch base with them, but simply sending a brief email of, hey, I just wanted to update you on what I'm doing, or I found this article and thought of you, want to share it with you. Just something to keep those relationships alive for potential future opportunities. And the power of thank you. I can't emphasize enough how important it is in networking connections to offer a word of thanks to an individual who spent time with you. Okay? Does anybody have a story of a networking connection that they made that has proven to be a real source of encouragement and help as you've been going through your college career? That's fine. Adam?
Over spring break, before spring break, I was part of, back in high school, I was part of a college search program. And so, before spring break, I was looking to kind of do some sort of journal channeling over spring break. So I emailed one of the program coordinators of that program to I know that she works with a lot of donors.
Yeah.
And so I emailed her, hey, how are you doing? Just checking up with you, and I'm interested in doing X, Y, and Z. And then she was like, oh, I know people who do that, and she forwarded my name to 4 different people. And then I had Dennis emailing me.
Excellent.
So that was really cool. So I got to do some cool chattering over spring break, because I just learned a lot. So it was really nice.
Excellent, excellent. Prime example of keeping a relationship alive, and for the benefit. I hope you thanked the individual that resourced you so well. Thanks for sharing that. Documents for application, resume. How many of us have resumes that would be ready to share with somebody at a moment's notice? Excellent, excellent. Typically, you want to ensure that that speaks to a position that you might be applying to. It's an opportunity for you to talk about transferable skills that you have accumulated in your experience. Sometimes students might be looking at opportunities that seem very unrelated to the research or coursework that they have been engaged in on campus, but if you step back and look at some of the transferable skills, like skills of analysis, problem solving, collaboration, teamwork, the way that you can show that on your resume is very important in helping the reader determine your fit for a particular position. You're probably no stranger to our describing accomplishment statements as both what you did, the action that you took, and also the impact or result of that. So that can be a much broader and fully dimensional viewpoint of how it was that you contributed to the particular organization or company that you were part of. Cover letter, obviously that's another application document that's tailored to a specific position. And you want to view that as an opportunity to really market yourself and your skills and experience for the particular opportunity that you're applying to. So you want to include in your cover letter different aspects of your resume that you can more fully develop to speak to your fit for a particular position. If there's an opportunity to include a cover letter, don't not take advantage of that, but don't submit a cover letter that just looks like it's been a form letter that has been sent to several different jobs. It's really a great opportunity to give the reader, an added depth of your understanding that you see how you're a fit for the position, and you can understand those things best by really combing through the job description and even doing research on the company or organization that you're looking to apply to. For some of the working fellowships and potentially for graduate programs, if you find yourself applying to those as part of your gap year experience, a personal statement might be one of the documents that's added. Generally, those are written in response to prompts or questions, and that behooves you to take time to research in depth the program or organization that you're applying to, and also to reflect on yourself and your experience, so you are able to answer those prompts with really a full complement of information and understanding of how you are a fit for that position. That's generally what they're asking for. How do you see yourself making a contribution to this particular opportunity? This first bullet point here is an example prompt from Teach for America. So in 500 words, tell us why you seek to join Teach for America, what do you hope to accomplish, and how would you determine your success? I've had the privilege of reviewing some of these personal statements, and it's really an exercise in concise and pointed writing when you've only got 500 words to express some very significant things about yourself. So personal statement might be something that you are called on to contribute. In addition to the Career Center being more than happy to review statements with you, I really encourage you to take advantage of the writing studio here at Duke. I did a workshop last fall where one of the writing studio staff came and did a presentation on writing personal statements. They've got some excellent resources both through workshops and also on their website for providing additional help with that. Sometimes you might be interested in an opportunity or an organization for which there's not an obvious posting or not an obvious application process. In that case, you might be in the position of submitting a letter of interest. So you might decide that there is a particular pharmaceutical company out in Research Triangle Park that you would really like to see about the possibility of perhaps doing a year of research with one of their PIs, and you might be really interested in the work that they do. So, identifying somebody on their website that looks like a likely person to direct this to. Strategy for putting that together would be to really research the company, really think about what you could bring to a particular position within that company, and craft a brief email that introduces yourself, introduces what it is that you're looking for, makes a brief statement of how you see yourself contributing to the company or the group, and then indicating that you'd be very willing to talk with them about this opportunity. So it's different from a cover letter in that you're not applying specifically to a position, but you have done your homework to see how you could be a good fit for that type of position. You might also be writing this type of letter if you were interested in querying a principal investigator who's doing a particular type of clinical psychology research that you're interested in, to see if they have a position for 1 or 2 years in their laboratory. So in that case, you might be researching what that individual has done for their research question, for publications that they might have, and put out a letter of inquiry, seeing how you might be able to connect with them, even though there isn't anything particularly advertised. In this case, it's also helpful to include your resume. So not only does the individual have a brief description of how you see yourself fitting into their organization or laboratory, but they've also got your resume that can provide information like that as well. Talking about references and recommendations, how many folks have been in the position of asking for references for an internship or letters of recommendation? Yeah. So you aren't strangers to this whole process. References generally are speaking to your skills and capabilities of contributing to a job or an internship, that type of connection. Usually references are contacted via phone or email to talk with supervisors who might be wanting to inquire about you, and you generally include that via a reference list. We don't recommend that you list references on your resume, but those are typically added as another part of the application process. Letters of recommendation, obviously, as you've experienced, are written for specific programs or opportunities that you might be applying to. Written by people who know you well and are able to speak to your capability for particular opportunities. I don't know if you experienced this when you were providing letters of recommendation for different opportunities, but sometimes when letters of recommendation are requested in an online capacity, there might be some type of confidentiality form that you have to fill out, or even, you indicate that you are not going to ask to read the letter of recommendation, so that might be a part of the process as well. From your own experience, I'm sure you know this, ask politely and give plenty of opportunity for the individual to write your letter of recommendation. I was in a workshop last fall where there was a panel of faculty talking about this very process in terms of what it was like from the faculty standpoint, fielding students' requests for recommendations, and they said, it's very important that if you're asking somebody for a letter of recommendation, that it's someone who knows you well. If you don't have, someone who knows you well, take the opportunity to take them out to lunch or go out for coffee and talk with them about the opportunity that you're applying to. The faculty were also, I had to stop to think about this, but the faculty were also talking about how not infrequently students might be applying to 3, 4, or 5 different opportunities for which they're all needing letters of recommendation. So, a faculty member might be asked to write multiple letters of recommendation. Again, giving them plenty of time to be able to do that. From your own experience, you may have been asked to provide your recommender with your resume, with a copy of the job description for something that you're applying to. Other documents that you submit in an application. When I'm asked to write a letter of recommendation, I always ask for all of that information. I want to see the student's resume. I really want to see a description of the program that they're applying to, so I can speak to their qualification for that with an idea of what that program is looking for. And I also find it helpful for the student to forward me any application essays that they might have submitted or their personal statement. That can really help me have a better window into what the student is thinking about during the application process. And again, thank you. This is a very important part of that process. Interview strategies. Different types of interviews. Behavioral interview is going to be the most common experience that you'll have. Typically, questions in a behavioral interview are those that will talk about getting you to talk about your experiences. Tell me about a time when you had to lead a group through a very difficult decision-making process, or tell me about a time that you had to, by yourself, bring a project from start to completion with a very short time frame. Some of those kinds of things to really get an idea of how you operate in different situations. For individuals who are looking at more of the consulting type of positions, typically case study interviews are going to be part of their experience, which is on the spot significant problem solving. And there are books and material resources put together to help people prepare for that. I put in parentheses there the name of the book that we frequently recommend for students who are going to be engaged in case study interviews. Some of our engineering friends, computer science friends, might find themselves in technical interviews. So there were several engineering students at the workshop last week. It's conceivable that they might, in their gap year experience, find themselves in a place where a technical interview, talking about computer programming might actually be part of their process. Some interviews might include you actually giving a presentation. So depending on the type of opportunity that you're applying for, there might be different aspects of interview type included in that. Resources for helping you with prepare for interviews. Mock interviews at the Career Center. We are delighted to set up situations for you that will mimic the type of interview that you might be preparing for. I've had multiple opportunities to do mock interviews for individuals who are interviewing for Teach for America. So it's an opportunity to really go through a series of questions in an interview situation, and then we take time to debrief people on what the individual was feeling during that, what areas did you feel uncomfortable with, what did the interviewer notice about you to try to help you to focus on your strengths and identify areas that you might want to bolster. The Career Center has a great interview skills guide that offers a lot of example questions for behavioral interviews. So if you go to the Career Center website, online tools and resources, and go down to the skills guide, I think you can find that to be a very helpful resource as you're preparing for different types of interviews. And then obviously practice. One of the most frequent questions utilized in interviewing is, so, Tim, tell me about yourself. And, your 90-second elevator pitch, how are you going to prepare to, share the essence of who you are in a concise and clear fashion with an individual? I don't know about you guys, but I can think about that very clearly. But when it comes time to transfer that into speech, if I'm not careful, I can wind my way through a lot of unrelated information. So, practicing in front of a mirror, practicing with a friend. Practicing if you get involved in a situation where you might have a phone interview. That can be a very different type of situation than a face-to-face interview because you don't have the visual cues of what the individual is communicating to you by body language and facial expression. So practice is a big piece of interview strategy. So here we are just taking some, for examples. This is the website that I was referring to that has a variety of fellowships and scholarships listed in it. So let's think for a moment about identifying a working fellowship opportunity. So here we are on the USEF website, and this is the database that I was referring to. So you can see by the click of a button that there are 11 pages of fellowships listed in here of a lot of different varieties, from social entrepreneur opportunities to working with the Duke Endowment, Teach for America. There are health and life sciences options in here too. So let's just say, for example, you were interested in education and teaching. You would have a list of organizations that have fellowships that fall somewhere in the region of education and teaching. Let's take a look at Blue Engine Fellowship. So clicking on that will give you more of the description of the particular opportunity. And then there is always included a link directly to the application website or close, unless they change their websites, which I have found that to be the case recently in exploring some of these websites. But I see here, yes, we're on Blue Engine. And you can see that their applications for for fellows for next year is closed. But this is the type of route that you might take to identify working fellowships through this database. You can also search by keyword up here. And there's also a list of tags down here that might be a little more broader than some of the categories in the search box here. So I would definitely put that on your radar screen to explore as you're considering different types of opportunities that we kind of lump into the working fellowship category. Another thing to consider in relation to working fellowships, every year in the middle of the fall, like usually October, we have what we call a nonprofit and government career fair. And a number of organizations that have working fellowships that we have listed in this database are actually on campus recruiting for students. So that can be a great opportunity to find out about different organizations. Okay? Any questions about that? So different fellowships obviously are going to have different application specifics. Most likely they're going to require some number of recommendations. And particularly with working fellowships, I think, as you begin to be interested in exploring that, it's really good to keep your finger on the pulse of what the application deadlines are looking like. Different clumps of fellowships have different deadlines, so if you begin to explore, just kind of make a note of when application deadlines are, so you don't get shut out of a particular opportunity because you missed a deadline. Okay? Sometimes students might be interested in doing a 1 or 2 year research gig, if you will, at the NIH. The NIH has a wonderful post-baccalaureate intramural research training award program that offers opportunities to connect with principal investigators at a wide variety of national institutes of health. The NIH is comprised of a whole variety of institutes, so this is an opportunity to explore research ventures in lots of different areas of medical and dental research. I would suggest that if you're remotely interested in exploring this type of opportunity, that you take a few minutes to browse through this video that they've put together on the actual application process. You can learn a lot just scrolling through different sections up here. There's a staffer from the NIH that actually from the technical education group. Yes, Sharon, that walks you through the process and gives some really good tips about networking with different individuals that you might be interested in connecting with. Steps for putting your application in. So that can be a really valuable resource if you're thinking about applying for the NIH post-bac UTA research opportunity. One of the things that they strongly recommend as you're in the process of applying for something like this is that you reach out and network with the principal investigators that you're interested in connecting with. That gives the PI a heads up that you're interested in user laboratory and prompts them to pull your application out. So again, networking is a very important part of the process. Clinical research assistant, I had mentioned that earlier when we were talking about letters of interest. I've talked with numbers of seniors this year who are interested in a 1 or 2 year clinical research assistant position. There have been Duke alums who have reached back to Duke saying, I'm in one of those, I'm getting ready to leave. If you know of anybody who'd be interested in taking my place, please have them get in touch with me. That's one route for for finding out about opportunities. I've been accumulating some information over the year that I've got a spreadsheet that one of the seniors found on the website of Catholic University of America that lists PIs from around the country who are doing clinical research and have at one time or another had these 1 or 2 year research assistant positions. That would be an example of submitting a letter of interest to inquire about a possible opportunity being available. Who do you know on campus that you might talk to about references for something like that? What types of labs might be of interest to you? Thinking about that, if you're perhaps interested in your gap year experience being in a particular region of Pennsylvania, you might be interested in focusing on colleges and universities in that particular area and reaching out to individuals who are doing research that you find intriguing, that you would want to approach, again with a letter of interest about the possibility of finding a clinical research position. I have been on the biology majors listserv this year, and I have seen numerous positions like that come across. So getting on listservs here on campus can be a great opportunity to begin perusing those kinds of opportunities. Again, applying for something like that, it might be a letter of interest, reaching out to find out about the opportunity, or it might be an advertised opportunity that requires a cover letter and a resume. Again, networking can be a very valuable resource as you're trying to identify these types of positions. Healthcare consulting, I put that up there again, just speaking back to last week. There were several students who were interested in thinking about, well, maybe I want to go into the world of work before I head to professional school, or I've got this sense that I'm really wanting to explore the business side of healthcare. Now, how can I test that out? Well, some students have tested that out by connecting with different healthcare consulting firms. So I have been accumulating lists of healthcare consulting firms that recruit at Duke, but you could certainly identify that through LinkedIn searches or Google searches. Taking a look at companies that would be doing the type of consulting that you might find interesting. A company like Deloitte or BCG, they might not be doing things as related to healthcare as something smaller like Prospective or another one of those companies that's doing more pharma or biotech type consulting. So, trying to identify companies that might fit your interest in where you'd like to explore this. Obviously, networking. The application process, depending on the type of company it might be, you might have identified an opportunity through e-recruiting here on campus. It might be something that you would be applying for through the company website. It might be an application that comes as a result of a networking connection. The interview preparation here would be one of the examples where case study preparation would suit you well in preparing for an interview. And I think being able to really identify and articulate transferable skills that you have developed as a result of your different experiences, coursework, again. What are the things that make a good consultant? Problem solving, analytical skills, teamwork. How would you show that from different experiences that you've had as part of your career here at Duke? So that's another example of potential gap year experience and some of the things that might be associated with pursuing that opportunity. How can the Career Center help you? We would be delighted to have conversations honing in more specifically on the types of areas that you'd be interested in. Sharing resources if we had them, brainstorming ways that you could identify those, helping you talk through different options that you might be exploring. Definitely helping with the resume, cover letter, personal statement review. Again, mock interview practice, networking preparations. Sometimes it can be helpful just to talk with somebody else about the options that might be good people to connect with in a networking type capacity. We offer 30-minute consulting. counseling opportunities, and I wanted to let you guys know that we're open regular hours during the summer. So if something came up and you wanted to have a phone conversation, or you wanted to Skype in to talk about something that you were interested in pursuing, or talk through some options that you were considering, we're here during the summer, except when we're not on vacation or at meetings. We don't do the 15-minute drop-in advising sessions like we have during the school year during the summer, but that's definitely an option during the school year for a quick consult about things. So, questions, comments, suggestions, information to share? Has this been helpful in any sense of the word? I'm sorry? Great. What do you think would be a couple of starting points that you would take away from this?
I never really knew. I had no idea that worked. That was just what I say. The reconnect. In fact, it was our alumni thing. I never really heard it either, so it's kind of like a nice little jump start. A lot of the things that I found, I think we just meet people, talk to people, that could throw me places, and so that's like a very good start. So.
Okay. Great. Well, it's almost over. Do connect. All you need to access that is your net ID and password. So that could be a great place to start. Other questions? Yeah.
I know you probably covered this more last week, but I still want to ask. So for people who are like interested in going like professional school, like medical school or dental school, do you think it's more beneficial for us to seek out a job in the gap year, or to go on to like a post-bac program or a master's program?
I think that as you get to that, what you decide to do for your gap year is going to be most beneficial for you, because at the end of the day, that's going to be part of your application essay. You're going to talk with the admissions people about what you did during your gap year. Post-bac programs, that's a serious consideration if you're really in need of GPA boosting. I would definitely recommend talking with a pre-health advisor about that to get advice about the types of programs that have the best track record for students getting into med schools. It might be, if a GPA is an issue, taking classes at a state college or university with a much smaller price tag associated with that. I think it just depends on what it is that you feel would make you prepare you as a candidate. I don't think there's a checklist that med schools are looking for. This is going to make you stronger, or this is going to make you stronger. You're going to be illustrating to them the competencies that you're coming with. What that experience has done for you is going to be a piece of that story. So it's all going to be individual, how you feel that's going to be helping you to be a stronger candidate. Good question.